Okay, so uh, good evening, everyone. My name is Inimfon Bassey. Thank you so much for joining in today's session. Today's session is called From Process to Product. And I'm just going to be talking about turning everyday workflows into digital solutions. So we're not going to be talking about coding or building apps. Instead, we're going to talk about something much more familiar, the everyday processes that we deal with at work or even outside of work, and how all of those processes can become digital products. So by the end of this session, my goal is for you to look at the systems that you use every day, the systems around you, and actually realize that, this is a product and this can actually be better. And so the everyday reality is that most of us interact with multiple digital systems every single day. At work, we use finance tools, we use HR portals, we use approval systems, we use reporting platforms. There's so many things that most of us use at work, but most of the times, all of this technology can be very frustrating. We can rely on spreadsheets, emails, manual workarounds. And that's not to say that spreadsheets are not good. But most of the times, if you are having to turn away from the digital system that you have to use something manual, then it just shows that something is not working right. And so just rhetorically, if anyone has ever created their own spreadsheets because the official system didn't, do what you needed it to do, that usually means one thing: the product has not solved the problem. And we can we can say that this is not actually a tech issue. Most of the times, it is a product management issue. And so before I dive into the rest of my slides, what really is product management? I feel like when people hear product management, they often think about, mobile apps, tech startups, all of those heavy technical things. But in reality, product management is one simple thing. It's about one simple thing: solving real problems using digital solutions. And that's as simple as that. It sits at the intersection of the people using the system, the processes the business relies on, and the technology supporting both. And, we can say that product management essentially is the bridge that makes sure that all of these elements actually work together. And so for this presentation, I'm going to be talking more and more about business, not necessarily on the personal side of things. So you're going to hear me, talk more towards the business side and work related stuff. So from process to product, every organization runs on processes, how work flows from start to finish. And when we do digitize those processes, we create products. And so that means, for example, an expense process becomes an expense platform. An onboarding process becomes a digital workflow. A reporting process becomes a dashboard. And if the product is well designed, work becomes easier. But if it's not well designed, of course, everything is slowed down. And so just a few examples from the business side of things. And I know these examples will feel very, very familiar to each and every one of us. So if, for example, you're working in an organization, you have expense claims. Of course, you're expected to lay out your expense claims in an expense app or something like that, something related that your organization uses. If you have maybe leave requests, you have an HR portal for that. If you need to do clients onboarding, you have KYC systems for that. If you need to, give approvals for stuff, finances and everything, you have finance dashboards for that. And so you realize that all of these things, they're not just admin tasks. Each one has a digital product behind it. And so when those products are poorly designed, people avoid them. They either avoid them, they delay using them, or they make mistakes using them because they're not actually working properly. And so what a good product management does is that it ensures that these tools actually support how people work and not fight against it. So there's so many reasons why most digital products fail. They don't fail because the technology is bad. Most of the times, people just build products and that's it. They try to think that, the more heavy or the more complex my product is, that's it, I'm done with this product. But no, products actually fail most of the times because they are built for management reporting and not for users. I think the mistake that people do, again, is that they build products for the company and not for the users. They don't actually have the users in mind, which is actually, one of the biggest reasons why products fail, essentially. Another reason is that the products are too complex. I do not know why people, you're trying to solve a problem and you're trying to solve a problem with something complex, with something difficult, with something that people would not understand, that actually doesn't work out. If you're trying to solve a problem, you have to come in with something simple that somebody can actually relate to and use to solve the problem that they are going through. And so a product can fail if it's too complex, if it's not simple enough, if it's not user friendly for people to be able to find their way around that product. Another reason why a product could fail is because you're not asking the users for feedback. And just from what I have learned so far in my professional journey and everything, user feedback is very, very important, not just even in products, even when you're running a business, in every single thing that actually requires somebody else on the end of using it or the end of being served, you have to obtain user feedback for every single step of your process, every single step of your business, every single step of your products. You need to know what people think about your products, what is working well and what's not working well. I think for most of the products that we have, most of the digital platforms that we use, if the creators were not getting user feedback, I don't think we would still be using them till now. And so it's very important that we get user feedback for every single thing that we create or put out there for people to use. Another reason why a product could fail is because compliance or regulatory standards are treated as an afterthought. I know that most times people don't really keep policies and things that govern their products at the back of their mind when they are creating something. Well, what I have learned so far is that compliance is very, very important, and is something that should be embedded in every single step of the product design process. You're not trying to make something that a law is going to kick against in the future. So you have to make sure that you're complying with whatever policies are surrounding whatever product that you're making at the time. And one other reason is that when you launch a product, you do not involve it. Imagine you do not, improve it, not involve. You do not improve it, or you do not actually help that product to evolve. So imagine if we were still using Windows XP. That was, I think, I don't know if that was the very first Windows, but that's the one that comes to mind when I think of a very old operating system. I don't imagine that anybody is still using Windows XP at this time, or very, very old operating system, because compared to what is happening now in this day and age of AI, things just moving really quickly, technological improvements and all of that, every single product, every single thing has to be improved from time to time. Nobody is using a system that is very, very slow. If you build a system that is very, very slow, nobody's actually going to use it or take you seriously. And so once you launch a product, you have to improve it. You have to keep iterating, getting user feedback, and actually seeing what you need to do to make sure that your product is in tune with the current times. So if you do not do any of these things, the results of your products, you're always going to get errors. You're always going to have delays. Your users will always be frustrated, and there's an increased risk of your product just failing overall, essentially. And this is actually where product management becomes a mindset and not just a job title. And so a product manager mindset focuses on solving problems, not just adding features. Once you have a product manager mindset, you know that you're designing a product for people and not just scenarios. You know that you're making a product that, somebody's actually going to use this, so I have to make this as user-friendly as possible. You have to make sure that you're keeping things simple, you're embedding compliance into every single aspect of the design, and you're improving continuously. And anybody anywhere can actually think this way. You don't even need to be technical to have a product manager mindset, because at the end of the day, a product manager, or the key thing that product manager does is actually to solve problems. And so once you have each of these things, once you're thinking of each of these things, you already have a product manager mindset. So anybody can think this way. You don't necessarily have to be a technical person to know that you can solve problems, you can design things for people, keep things simple, and keep improving. And so what does this look like in practice? When we are approaching any digital system, there are key questions that a product manager asks. So first of all, you have to know, of course, the general overview of the system, what the problem is. So you have to find out who is using this product, what is frustrating the users of the product. Where do the delays or errors happen? What part of the process causes the most friction? And these questions really are often more powerful than any technical solution, because before you can even provide a solution, you have to ask the questions. You have to know what the pain points are, what the problem is, before you can actually address them. And I'm just going to, speak on a very short, simple case study from the finance space first of all. So many small businesses we see, or I see around me anyways, they struggle with bookkeeping and compliance. And I think one of the problems that I identify is that you could own a small business, maybe just you or you and your friend are running it, and you do not think that you need to get a business bank account. You don't think that you need to invest in a financial system that can actually keep your things, your accounts, your documents, and all of those things in check. Most times people tend to wing it, try to manualize all of their processes. The documents are scattered, they are missing deadlines for filing submissions and all of that, and essentially the business is just stressing. And you come to find out that this is not actually just a finance problem, it's a product problem. And it's one of those things that come from not having a product management mindset, because you're just operating as a normal individual. You're not actually thinking of, okay, what are the problems that my business could face and how can I actually solve them before they even pop up? So you're not thinking of the systems that you could use to automate your processes, automate your documents, and all of those things. So that's one of the problems that I actually see when people, have small businesses, and it's something that you have to step into a product product manager mindset to see. Another case I would say is imagine an organization with, let's say, more than 500 employees. You have the staff that are regularly submitting expense claims for travel, expense claims for meals, clients meetings, all of those things. And the organization then introduces a digital expense system to reduce manual work, to improve compliance, speed up reimbursement, all of those things. I think it's something that we can all relate to when, our companies or organizations or the places that we work in, they just say, oh yeah, guys, we are trying to introduce a new system, blah, blah, blah. This is what we are supposed to use them for, and all of those things. So on paper, the system could work, but in reality, it doesn't. And what is the problem? Or what would we say are the problems in this case? So in this case, the symptoms or the problems are that there's a staff delay in submitting expenses. The managers are delaying approvals. Finance people are rejecting the claims because there are too many, and the payments are late. And then in this case as well, people are saying, oh, it's too complicated. I don't know which receipts they're accepting. It's taking longer than before with this new system. So in this particular case, you see that while everybody's complaining that this is hard, I can't use the system and all of those things, what a product manager is going to think about is that, oh, this is not just users complaining, this is actually a product signal. This is actually something that shows that, oh, maybe the product is not working correctly. Also, in this case, we have three groups of people, right? You have the employees, you have the managers, you have the finance team. So the employees, they want quick reimbursement. Once they submit an expense claim, they need you to pay them sharp. They don't want to read any policies. They want to be able to submit their claims on their phones. The managers, they have to approve in between meetings. They want minimal efforts. They don't want to go back and forth. Finance team, they need compliance. They need accurate data. They need audit trails. So this is one product that is supposed to serve multiple users, these multiple groups of people with different needs, right? So now, why is this process failing? You have so many things in this process, so many things that has to go through with this expense claim system. Employees are submitting their claims. Maybe the system is asking for too many fields. The receipts rules are unclear. The managers are delaying approvals. The finance team, they are rejecting claims back to back. The employee has to resubmit. There's a whole lot of back and forth. And all of these things can cause backlogs. It can cause frustration, delays, duplicate work. Now, for a product manager, they have to step in and do some product thinking and identify the problem. Some people might say, oh, that the problem is that people are not using the system properly. But in this case, how a product manager thinks is that they're just going to say, oh, the system does not match how people work, which is true because the system was built to accept expense claims, for HR to approve the claims, finance to pay people and all of that, but it's not working according to the user. So it's not like people are not using the system properly. It's just that the system does not match how the people work. And so in this case, we have to redesign the products with users in mind and make the different changes based off of the questions that you ask. So you can make changes such as, users can submit using their mobile phones. There's a clear rule for receipts. There are fewer fields for people to fill out, approval reminders and stuff like that. And from all of these things, you just see that a good product can guide the behavior instead of policing it. So if you have a good product, all of these things are not actually going to be issues. Everything is catering to the different user groups that is meant to serve. So after redesigning this product, you see that there's faster submissions, there are fewer rejections, there are faster reimbursements, your staff, they are happier, there's a less finance workload on the finance team. So at the end of all of this, you see that the technology did not change. The way the product's thinking, the way you thought about the products, that's all that changed. Technology did not change, but the product thinking did. And this case study actually teaches that products fail when users are ignored. Processes are products, right? Every single process that a system is meant to address is a product. One system serves many users. Compliance can be user-friendly, and simplicity drives adoption. Once a product is too complex, like I said before, you're just setting yourself up for failure. But once it's simple, once it's able to serve the users that it's meant to, anybody can use it. Like, it just drives the adoption. It makes people want to use the products more, right? And so a product manager will often ask, how do we make a system easier? It could be something as simple as an onboarding system, uploading a document securely, setting automated reminders, clear dashboards, and stuff like that. But we always have to ask the question, how can we make a system easier? If people are finding that a system is very difficult to use, you always have to ask, how can we make it easier? How can we make sure that that system is serving the different groups of people that it's supposed to serve without necessarily changing the system completely? And so if you notice, none of this is about complex technology. It's all about designing the products thoughtfully, with the users in mind. Think about the different groups of users that you have and think about how best you can improve the product and how best it can serve each group of person that is meant to use it, each demographic that is meant to use it. So you're not exactly changing the products completely unless you have to, but most of the times it's all about thinking what specific part and what specific parts of this product need to be changed, what specific parts of these products do I need to improve on, and how can I improve on that? And another thing that a product manager always has to have in mind is that no product is perfect when you launch it initially. Strong product management always means that you're listening to the user. Is very, very important. Like I stated before, you have to make sure that you're listening to the users. Like the case study that I did, we had 3 different groups of users. We had the employees, we had the managers, and we also had the finance team. You have to make sure that you're listening to every single user demographic that you have, because if you do not listen to them, you're not getting feedback. Or even if you get the feedback and you do not listen to them, your product is sure to fail because you're not actually doing anything to improve that experience for the users. So you have to listen to your users. You also have to track how the system is actually used. I think like most of the time, you could see, you could probably use a graph or something like that, and or a chat, and just see, okay, this particular user group, this particular demographic is using my products more than this particular demographic, and they're using it more for this activity or this activity. So it's very important that you track how your system is actually being used, so that if there is an activity, like if the product, let's say the product was meant to tackle problem A and tackle problem B, or it was meant to be used for situation A and situation B, and most people are using the product only for situation A, then you know that there is a problem if nobody's using it for situation B. So you have to go back and check your products, actually track it and see, why are people not using it for this particular purpose? It was invented for two purposes, but people are using it for only one purpose. So you have to go back and check why people are not using it for the other purpose, and how you can make it, how you can reiterate it, or how you can change it and improve it to make sure that it is being used for both purposes as they were supposed to be used. Another, strong product management mindset is actually identifying the pain points of a product. I think I have just touched on that when I said you've created a product is meant to tackle situation A and situation B, but people are only using it for the first situation. So you have to check why it's not working for the other one. So you have to tackle those pain points, and you have to improve continuously. So the goal is not just about perfection, it's all about making progress every single time. And that's why most of the times, even on our phones, you'll see that there are certain apps that just auto update themselves. And that's because the product managers or the creators of the apps, they are constantly checking, what can we do to make this app better? What bugs are there, or what is this user saying about the app? What feedback are we getting? And how can we actually improve this app? Once you have an app out there, it's very important that you are constantly, not even just an app, once you have a digital platform, it's very important that you're constantly improving, constantly checking what can you make better for your users. Most of the times, I think this is a lived experience, that most times we don't really know what we might need until somebody shows it to us. So if you're a product manager, or if you are a creator of a platform, of a digital platform, you can just introduce something and say, the users might actually need this. And we as users would see it, and they'll be like, actually, this is a very cool feature. I didn't know that I needed this. And that comes from a place of constantly improving, of constantly checking and tracking how your system is used, and making sure that you're, coming up with new ideas on how to make your systems better, or how to serve people in the ways that they did not even think about before. So as I mentioned before, the goal is not perfection. It's all about progress. And what does this mean for you? So the key takeaway here is that, you already interact with digital products every day. You already understand what works and what doesn't work. So that means that you already have the ability to influence better systems simply by asking better questions. I don't think it gets any simpler than that. It's all about having a problem-solving mindset. You can, make anything improved by asking better questions, by asking the right questions. You're not going to provide a solution if you do not even ask the right questions and if you don't know what the answers are. So you have to ask better questions, identify what the problem is. And I'm just going to leave you with these final thoughts. Product management, and as much as, yes, it is categorized as a tech role, but it's more than that. Is first about having a problem-solving mindset. You need to know what the problem is and how to solve it. It doesn't get any simpler than that, to be honest. Another key takeaway is that frustration at work, like I gave in the case study about how you can have a system, but it's not working properly, or it's not working the way you're supposed to. With a product manager mindset, you have to see frustration with all of these systems as data and not noise. So when people are thinking, this system is annoying, this system is not working properly, it's not doing what I want it to do, that frustration is a signal that a product is poorly designed, and it is a push for you or us as product managers to actually ask, what could be the problem? Why is this person saying that the system is annoying? And how can we actually design it to make this product better for them? Another key takeaway is that processes become products, whether we like it or not. So if you are in a workplace, or even if you're starting a business or something like that, and you have a particular workflow, maybe in claiming your expenses, like we have already used, or something like that, we know that this has to be tackled from a product mindset. You have to know that, we're not just going to be doing these processes manually. We have to actually create a system that works for our workflow. So at the end of it all, processes become products, and not just processes. They become products. They become a way that we create a system that we can actually use to handle them at the end of the day. Good products also respect real humans in terms of simplicity and how we work. So as a product manager, you're not particularly making a product because the company said you should make a product. You're making a product because you're thinking of the user. You're making a product because you're thinking of the person that is going to utilize it. You're thinking of the person that has the problem, and you know at the back of your mind that once this person uses this product, their problem is solved. So good products respect real humans in terms of simplicity and how we actually work. And you do not also need, authority. You don't need a job title to influence better systems. All you need to have is the right questions. You need to ask better questions. And so when someone or something feels frustrating at work or your daily tasks, it's not just an inconvenience, it's a chance to improve how you get your work done. And so we see at the end of every single thing that every broken process is a product opportunity. Every broken process is a product opportunity. Yes, it's frustration. Yes, it's delay. Yes, it's things being slow and all of that. But much bigger than that, it is a product opportunity. It is an opportunity to say, what can I do better? What can I create? How can I actually make sure that this process is improved? So every broken process is a product opportunity. And once you start seeing, problems in your workplace or in your daily lives or, just in simple everyday tasks, once you start seeing them not as problems, once you start seeing them as, oh, wow, I can change something about this. It's a game changer, to be honest. Like, it gives you a whole total mindset and actually makes you step into that mindset of, I can actually create something out of this. So this is not just a problem, but this is an opportunity for me to step into my product manager mindset and actually just create something that can actually work better for me and anybody else that is actually in these same shoes, or anybody else that is facing this same problem that I'm facing. So again, every broken process is a product opportunity. Thank you. That is the end of the presentation. Thank you for listening. And yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts or questions if you have any in due time. Thank you.